Okay, everybody, I'm going to show you today how to use wax and watercolour together. So what I've got is a piece of watercolour paper stuck down with some masking tape around the outside to create a border. Makes everything neat and tidy. I've undercoated this with a light wash of orange, and I'm going to use a candle to draw onto the surface. Now, you can use beeswax. If you've got beeswax, then you can set up a little bain-marie sort of setup. Pan, hot water, boil, in a tin, beeswax pellets, and then melt that down, and then you can use a paintbrush to paint the wax onto the paper. That's one option. The other option is to use masking fluid. That comes off, so it's a little bit more flexible than other methods, or you can just simply use a little bit of candle wax, which is what I'm using today, just so that you get the basic principle, and then you can play around with it yourself. So if you undercoat it, what will be left once you put a second coat on are the lines of orange that I've drawn on top of. So this wax basically blocks any paint from adhering to the surface of the watercolour paper. So if you undercoat it, then you won't be left with a white mark. Now, if you want a white mark, that's fine. But if you don't want a white mark, then just undercoat it. Then just rub off the excess, take some watercolour, and I'm just going to use a little bit of purple here. I've got some excess left over from a tutorial I did earlier on, so I'm just going to use it, and I'm just going to put a coat over the top, and you can see. So I've just done some really simple pattern on this surface, so you can see that the wax is resisting. So this is called wax resist. It's resisting the paint, so it's preventing the paint from adhering to the surface of the watercolour paper. So there you go. So that's simply how it works. So if you were doing a painting of a boat and the boat was white and you wanted to reserve the white and paint the sky over the top of it so it's a bit freer, then you could use your wax candle to reserve the white colour. So the second stage, if you want to carry on with that, is to actually just dry it off. So you can see that the process is really quick, and you can see that the orange has been left exposed by the wax. So if you wanted to work into this, just take another piece of wax and start to add. So again, whatever will be left here behind is going to be purple. So whatever purple bits you want, then put the wax on top of it, and that will be left behind. Now, the only problem with wax is the fact that you can't see it, so you have to be fairly sort of loose and enjoy yourself with this process, and not be too, if there's any wet patches, the wax won't go on, so just be aware of that. And I'm going to put some lines across this time. So this is a fun exercise. It's a really good project to do for cards, and just, I mean, you can draw very loose flowers, little objects, etc, etc. So, you know, just have a bit of fun with it. But the practical use of it is to reserve areas of colour. So what shall I go for now? Let's try some red. So I've got like a deep red purple colour. So again, I've just done as much as I wanted to do, and I'm just going to apply it again. And I'm going to do a tonal wash here. So I'm going to go from a dark red through to a mid red, or a cadmium red, which is what it's called, and then through to a sort of orange, what they call an orange red. So you can mix an orange red if you haven't got an orange red by mixing a little touch of orange with your cadmium red tone. So as you can see, the sort of purpley areas have been left exposed, but also the areas of orange underneath. Okay, so you can keep going like that. As long as you dry off the layers in between, you can keep going and going and going and going. So I'm just going to dry that off again so you can see how it dries. It looks very different when it's dry. So there you go. So you can see that the watercolour really dries very lightly when it's dry. So if you did want to accentuate some of these wax lines, you could even go back in. Now I haven't applied any more wax here, but I'm just going to go back in and I'm just going to put some curls of colour into some of these curls. So if you go over the top of the wax, then obviously it's going to resist like that. So have fun with it. Let your creative juices flow, as they say. Just enjoy. It's a quite a sort of mindful, loose project to have a go at. Just have a play and see what happens, and don't worry too much about the final product. That's not the point. The point is to learn the technique of the resist and to sort of enjoy it as you go along. So if I just remove this really quickly, then you can see how it looks with a clean frame. I've gone actually under with my brush there, so that, oops, and that's tearing. Now that's tearing now because I've taken it off before it's dry. So ideally whip this masking tape off when it's thoroughly dry, and then you won't get torn paper like that. Okay, so there you go. Have a play. It's quite a nice thing to do, and like I said, you can paint into it once you've done. There's no reason why you couldn't come in and put some sort of little dots around those curves in places, accentuate the curves like that, you know what I mean? So just have a nice enjoyable time of it, and enjoy doing something that's not necessarily going to result in a final landscape or anything particular. All right, have a bit of fun, enjoy. Let me know if you've got any questions, subscribe, blah blah blah, and see you soon. Bye.